All right, welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome on in. Welcome to the Brown School's last info session for the spring semester for 2026, Life as a Brown School Student. We are so excited to welcome you all in here today. We have a great panel of students and academic advisors to talk today in today's panel, but we want to know who you are here in the chat. So if you want to fill out a poll, we have a poll just wanting to know, are you an admitted student who's definitely coming to the Brown School? Are you still making your final decision? Are you still waiting for your application to be reviewed? Or are you just here just to learn more? You're just very curious. I love curiosity, so definitely come in and join us. Welcome and good to have you all here. All right, we have quite a few people enrolled and attending in the fall. Welcome, welcome. We cannot wait to welcome you. Yes, admitted and still making your decision, totally fine. May 1st is next Friday, so we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Remember, that is my birthday, so it would make my day so much better if you were to say yes, but also make sure you make the best decision for you. And some of y'all are still working on your applications. Definitely let us know if we can be of help. And yeah, just glad to see so many of you who are going to be here in the fall. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Just as some housekeeping notes, as you all are still continuing to take the poll, today's webinar is being recorded. Closed captions are enabled and can be activated at any time. In a Zoom webinar, we can't see or hear the audience, and we can't call on raised hands. So if you do have questions, please use the Q&A feature and not the chat to submit questions during today's conversation. We do have quite a few questions, but if we can get to your questions, we absolutely will. If we cannot, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at brownadmissions@wustl.edu, and we can definitely answer your questions one-on-one with either a specialist or with one of our student ambassadors to help answer any questions you may have. And again, for today's topic, we're going to talk about life as a Brown School student and just talking about what every Brown School student should know as they prepare to join us this fall. All right. And so to start us off, we should introduce ourselves. So my name is Clarissa Jackson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an admissions and recruitment specialist here at the Brown School. I graduated in 2016 with my MSW here, and just really excited to get to talk with current students today, get to hear how their experiences are the same, but also different from when I was here at the Brown School. And yeah, just getting to know everyone's perspectives. But I'm also going to hand it over to my colleague, Sheena, to introduce herself.
Thanks, Clarissa. Hi, everyone. I'm Shayna Peterson, she, her pronouns. I am an associate director in the Office of Admissions and Recruitment. I have been in the Office of Admissions here for 4 years, I think, and I also just completed our part-time MSW program at the Brown School last year, so also an alum, proud alum, and I work primarily with our part-time students, but also happy to work with anyone who comes through our doors. So, thanks, Clarissa. So our agenda for today, we are going to turn it over to the people that you all are here to actually hear from, which is our panel of Brown School staff and students. And then we will stop sharing the screen, dive into some questions that we've prepared, some frequent questions that we receive this time of year. And then we're hoping to save some time at the end for your questions. So like Clarissa said, please put questions in the Q&A feature. If we can answer them like while we're going, we'll do that. But then we also will save some questions to answer live at the end if we have them. So that's what our agenda looks like today. Pretty simple. And let's go ahead and dive into panel introductions. So we have an awesome group of panelists here today, 3 current students and 2 staff members. I would love to start with our current students introducing yourself. So Mo.
Hi, I'm Mo. So I'm a first year student at the Brown School. And yeah, I use she, her pronouns. And I'm currently in our domestic, social, and economic development concentration for the social work program.
Thanks, Mo. Jonathan, would you like to go next?
Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Jonathan. I am a current first year advanced expanding Master of Social Work student. I'm in the health concentration with the specialization in management, and I'm currently doing my practicum over at the Veterans Affairs. And yeah, happy to be with you guys today.
Thanks, Jonathan and Becca.
Hi, my name is Becca. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a first-year student as well, and I am in the mental health concentration. I'm currently completing my practicum at the Community Builders Network.
Fantastic. Thank you all. And then we'll have Deshawn and Keely introduce yourselves too and your role at the Brown School.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deshawn Sky. I use he, him pronoun. I am the Director for Academic Affairs and Advising at the Brown School, and I've been here for 5 years now.
Hey, my name is Julia Burkett. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Academic and Student Support Advisor at the Brown School. I've been here for about 2 years. Very nice to meet everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you all. And I think at this point, we can just stop sharing the screen and just see everyone's faces, if that sounds okay. Amazing. Hi, everyone. Okay, so let's just dive into questions. I think everyone, all of our attendees are probably here by now, so we will dive in. So this first question, we wanted to throw out to our students, so Mo, Jonathan, and Becca. Brown School, a lot of our prospective students hear us talk a lot about how the Brown School really prides itself on how student-centered our staff and faculty are. So would love for you all to share maybe an example of how you have seen or experienced this firsthand. And Mo, would you be willing to start us off?
Yeah. So, when I was first starting here, especially, I kind of had trouble figuring out what exactly I wanted to do. And every single staff and faculty that I reached out to was like so open to having a conversation with me. And I think that was just like such a great introduction to the Brown School and like really showed me how like student-centered all the faculty and staff were, that they were just so open and willing to have kind of like conversations with me about like what I wanted to do and everything like that.
Yeah, and I would kind of say, especially the assistance that you receive here at the Brown School. I was feeling pretty unsure of what I wanted to do, especially for my concentration practicum, and I had to know that right away, coming in as advanced standing. But reaching out to any advisors that you have, whether it be practicum advisor, academic advisor, and just making sure that you're aware of all the support that you do have here, and understanding that the professors are pretty passionate about your like you succeeding here at the Brown School, whether it be like seeing it through lectures and seeing it through just interactions with them, seeing how passionate they are about your success as a student, but also social work as a whole. So.
And I definitely want to echo what Mo and Jonathan said, that if you have any questions or concerns, or you're just curious about different pathways you can take, you can definitely reach out to anybody and they'll connect you with the right people. A more specific example in my case was I recently I signed up for a lecture just to listen about, there was actually a suicide prevention training, and had mentioned a dietary restriction that I have. And Melissa Arnold, the program manager, actually reached out to me directly to kind of coordinate a plan for me to be able to eat at this lecture, which was just very thoughtful. And you don't always see that in a lot of different places. So there was a lot of that one-on-one and direct communication that was really appreciated.
Awesome. Those are great examples. As someone who also has dietary restrictions, I very much appreciate that, Becca. And Jonathan and Mo, you were speaking to something that like I think is important for prospective students to know, that some people are going to come in here knowing exactly what they want to do. They got a plan, they are very clear on that and not going to waver. And then a lot of our students, they'll come in knowing that like social work is the path for them, but they still might be sort of figuring out like which route they want to take, or deciding between a couple of concentrations. And that's a question that we do get a lot, and it's good to know that you've received a lot of support there. So thank you all. I will pass it over to Clarissa for our next couple questions.
So thanks, Sheena. And actually, my next question dovetails into a question that we just got in the chat. about relocating to St. Louis and just, transitioning to the city. But for folks who are new to St. Louis, how did you find your community here at the Brown School? And just one or two ways that students can start to make friends and build out their professional network? And I think Mo, I'd love to start with you on this one.
Yeah, so I was kind of in a lucky position because I am from the St. Louis area. So I did have a little bit of a built-in support network with my family living here and stuff like that. But I did come from I moved back from college from my undergrad to go here. So I didn't really have as many like friends as I did have like in the town that I was living in for undergrad. So I think just like going to everything, like all the events and everything, there's like happy hours, and I was able to make a lot of friends at just like it was like the first like the not the admitted students weekend, but the kind of like introduction before school started that we had that was like a couple days long, where I just got to meet everyone in the program, um and immediately like got invited to somebody's birthday party, so everybody was like really open to making friends. And yeah, I think just like going to everything, especially at the beginning, to try to meet as many people in your cohort as possible.
Yeah, and I can add on to that. So the same thing as Mo. I'm originally from St. Louis as well, and literally just came back after college to come to the Brown School. But I would say even throughout your classmates as well, like through your cohort, you're spending so much time with these people in class, working on the same projects and assignments, worrying about the same deadlines. So those relationships also do kind of build themselves as well. So just really build on that, like making good relationships with your classmates and just making friendships out of it too. And yeah, show up to everything, whether it be events like held at the Brown School, events held to the whole WashU community as a whole. Show up and don't be afraid, and take a friend with you too.
I am not from St. Louis. I'm from the DC area. So I moved here and I didn't really know anybody. I think new student orientation is definitely a great opportunity to meet people, but I would also just let you guys know that it's okay if like at new student orientation you don't immediately connect or like make friends with people. There's still an entire semester, entire 2 years to kind of go to Brown School sponsored programs, and like there's the happy hours that Mo mentioned and other random events that you can do. And I think definitely in classes, I love to body double. So you just like study with somebody somewhere. And so you're not necessarily working on the same thing, but you just have somebody. And so kind of just that proximity, you're going to start making friends. And then there's a lot of community events that are going on. So if you want to branch out of the Brown School and just be in other niches, there's a lot of like really, I have a friend that's in it's a bike organization. They do a lot of biking. So if that's your thing, or like coffee or anything, there's a ton of options and variety that you can find.
Thank you all for sharing that. And I think something that, just to mention with that too, is that the friends that you make too at the Brown School and the acquaintances that you meet too become your professional network as well. So I think to the point that the students are making about going to every event that you can, even a birthday party or going to the bike events that Becca mentioned, these are just ways to kind of create your network, because I think St. Louis is very much a Kevin Bacon effect, but instead of 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, it's 2 degrees. So you really can kind of expand your network pretty easily, even if you're not from the St. Louis area. Kind of switching gears just a little bit, did not mean to make that pun with the bike joke, but going to anyway. I would love for the current students to maybe talk a little bit more about the classroom experience and just talking about maybe something that has stood out to you so far in your first year here at the Brown School. So maybe Jonathan, I know you're gearing up to graduate. So I guess what has stood out to you most about your classroom experience here at the Brown School?
Yeah, especially kind of going with the academic rigor. It is a pretty intense program, but you do have all the support that you need with the professors that you're getting the lectures from. But seriously, just reaching out to professors if you have anything that you're kind of struggling with within the classroom, or just anything that you want to discuss with them. don't hesitate to reach out. That's pretty much what I would say.
I would also say like the classes are 3 hours, which can definitely be a little bit rough. I'm coming from having worked for a couple of years before coming back to school, so I would say also that transition from professional life to back to school was interesting, but the classes are very dynamic and professors are very energetic and will offer a lot of variety so that it's not just sitting and listening to lecture. There's still 3 hours of learning, but there's a lot of different styles. And so you can kind of find what works best for your style of learning and then also have a lot going on so that you're not necessarily just sitting there and like listening to lecture over and over again.
Yeah, I came straight from undergrad, and I went to a very big school where most of my classes were very big lectures. So I think it was such a nice like change to have. Now there's really small classes, usually with only about 20 students in it, which is really nice. And there's like a lot of group discussion that you're able to have in like such small classes, which is an experience I didn't get to have in undergrad. Um, that I really enjoyed and has really stood out to me just throughout my time.
So thank you all. I will pass it to Shayna to ask a few more questions.
Okay, we're going to give our students a little breathing room. You guys have been answering a lot of our questions so far. So going over to Keely and Deshawn, our staff members, and then maybe a student if one of you wants to jump in as well. Can you all speak to some of the supports that the Brown School has available to help students? So with their academic, professional, personal goals, we talk about the support that we have for students starting at graduation or starting at orientation, all the way through graduation and beyond. So just tell us a little bit about some of the supports that are available, if you guys could.
Well, Brown School students are supported all the way from orientation to graduation, and we have like a comprehensive wraparound system to help support students through their time here. It's a 2 years, 3 years, depending on what degree you're interested in. But from the start of orientation, you'll learn more about the introduction to your degree program, meet your academic advisor, campus resources, and career services that we have here. During your time here within the Brown School, you have 3 advisors. You get a practicum education advisor, a faculty advisor, and an academic advisor. So we all work together to make sure that you have the things that you need throughout your time here at the Brown School. We also have some outside sources, campus resources you can utilize, such as the Writing Center, the Stat Lab, and the Center for Career Engagement that provides like career coaching, network, double check your resume, cover letters if you need things within that time. And then something that I always recommend students is we also have a variety of mental health services if you're dealing with some things and disability resources. So if you have any accommodations, I always tell people to submit that ahead of time because it can take anywhere from 2 weeks to a month to get your accommodations approved. And then Keely.
Yeah, echoing off of that, I think for like overall resource, WashU Cares is a really great one just because they can help connect students with both on-campus and off-campus resources, and everyone there is super, super nice. On like the individual level in terms of like professional goals, personal goals, academics, I really, really recommend that students talk with their specialization and concentration chairs just because they really are sort of the experts in their area of concentration. They can help you with finding things like, hey, I might want to do this career post-graduation. What courses would you recommend that I take? So they're really good for kind of things related to like academics and, what you want to do beyond the classroom.
Any students want to jump in on supports that are available that you would recommend or have experienced?
I think this is more so in terms of like schoolwork, but like the Writing Center and the Career Center have both been like amazing resources for me. The Career Center like really helped me put my resume together and everything for applying for practicum, and just kind of like helped aid that process along with a lot of the Brown School staff. And also the Writing Center has been like so helpful in writing essays that I have to do for class. Because you can go in there with like nothing or a finished essay and they'll help you no matter where you're at. So
That's a good one. And I would add to the Writing Center, has specific staff who are there to help Brown School students who are, I think, graduates of the Brown School, like PhD graduates. So you have specific staff assigned to you. Okay, kind of a hidden gem sort of questions for Keely, Deshawn, and then maybe another student. What is maybe a lesser known student resource or maybe an underrated student resource in the greater WashU community? So maybe not just at the Brown School, but greater WashU that you think students should know about coming in.
Yeah, I would say the Learning Center is a really great one just because they have a lot of time management tools and just way to kind of like navigate graduate school. They also have academic peer coaches. And for the past couple of years, some of the coaches have actually been Brown School students, which I think is like a great resource to have because they've been exactly where you are now. They've been in the classroom, they've experienced practicum. So they would really be a great resource to kind of tap into to talk more about, anything that you have questions about related to specifically the student experience.
For me, I would say the Graduate Center. So, our Graduate Center at WashU, we have individual graduate schools, but the Graduate Center supports all graduate students that we have at WashU. It's a great place if you want to go to, if you want to meet other graduate students or PhD students that are from different schools. They are within the Graduate Center. They have GPSC, which stands for Graduate Professional Student Council, that you can be involved with too. So they have a direct line to the chancellor and the vice chancellor to talk about some of the issues and pros and cons that's been going on within the WashU. So that's a better opportunity to support you all throughout your experiences here at Washington University. And they have free coffee and a lot of events and student groups that you all can be involved with. So it's more like getting outside of the Brown School because it's very easy to get stuck in the Brown School bubble. And I always tell people sometimes you might have to step outside to meet other people like law students or engineering students. So it's a great experience opportunity that you all have here at the Brown School.
Becca, Jonathan, you guys got any hidden gems to share with us about WashU community, things you've taken advantage of?
I'm not really too sure if this is like very much hidden. However, I do recommend seriously engaging with the Career Engagement Center. Speaking from personal experience, I mean, graduation is coming up pretty soon, and just navigating post-graduation, whether it be finding like a specific area of social work that you would like to practice in, finding certain settings that you would like to work in. And they definitely do assist with helping with that, such as like mock interviews, resume building, resume reviewing, and also just connecting with other professionals, alumni, other resources that they're able to provide. Take advantage of it.
Thanks, Jonathan. And I would mention too, just like the Writing Center, a lot of the resources at WashU are sort of like centralized. And so there's a central office or a central team that supports the whole WashU community. But then within that central team, they have staff who specialize in the different schools. So within the Career Center, or the Center for Career Engagement, there are specific staff who are assigned to Brown School students who are working with, social work and social policy employers and alumni and things like that. So you, as a student, have access to, of course, the whole team and all of the resources, and you have that more like specialized support as well. Okay, thank you all. I will pass it back to Clarissa. And we are also getting some really great questions in the Q&A, so keep those coming, and we'll answer some of them live at the end.
Great. Thanks, Sheena. I actually want to go back to something Deshawn said, which is so key, is that when coming to the Brown School, it can be so easy to stay within the bubble of the Brown School and of WashU. And so it really does take some doing to get outside of that and make sure that you can see the greater St. Louis area. So to Keely and Deshawn, and to any of our students who would like to answer, how do Brown School students typically engage with the greater St. Louis community outside of practicum? And what advice can you give to students who are new to the area and just trying to figure out, how do I just get my foot through the door, and how do I just get out there and start meeting people, engaging just outside the classroom and outside the academic work?
Yeah. Oh, do you want to go? Okay, I'll go first. Yeah, I would say I'm shy. So kind of a good way to get my foot in the door is to make connections. So the easiest things I could think of is your professors. So, getting to know what they're doing, inside the classroom and also outside the classroom, and whether there might be, you know, a research opportunity there or a volunteer opportunity that you can sort of lean into. And then when you go that path, you kind of already know someone who's doing it as well. So I think that's kind of a good way to get your foot in the door and kind of engage with some of the different nonprofit and like organizations outside of the classroom in St. Louis.
Yeah, something similar that I was going to say is a lot of our students, they volunteer with local nonprofits in St. Louis area, such as like St. Louis Area Food Bank, Mission St. Louis. Those are other great opportunities. And sometimes our faculty create like within their classroom opportunities for you to interact within the community as well. And then WashU also have a department called In St. Louis for St. Louis, and it's all about creating different community service events for all faculty, staff, and students to get involved within the community as well. But I always tell people, I was just like, everybody have their own definition of what does community and support looks like. And when you're doing it, make sure you're doing it with the right intentions, not something like, oh, I'm just putting this on my resume. So what is your intentions on supporting different people throughout the community? That's something I always tell students, keep that in the back of the mind, like what are they interested in and what are the reasons for them to seek those different opportunities to volunteer. So make sure you're genuine with your approach.
I can also share in terms of getting involved in the greater community. If it really depends on what you're looking for. I'm speaking more from a community development organizing lens, just because that's what I'm doing my practicum right now. But there are tons of ways to get involved. And I would say wherever you end up living, look to see what neighborhood organizations there are, because it's really important to kind of be invested in the community that you're living in. And then if you have a niche interest, just do a little bit of research. So if you're interested, and this isn't really niche, but if you're interested in activism or if you're interested in sustainability and community growth, there are a ton of different organizations. And if you do have any questions about that, feel free to email me. I'm sure you'll get my email after this. But there's tons of things that you can do. You can also, if you're looking for more friendly, like meeting other friends type activities, there are like dance groups, there are community gardens where people go and do gardening together. And yeah, so there's a ton of options if you're looking for more of a friendly way to engage with the community, or if you're looking for more like activism or connection with the community, you've got tons of options.
Thank you. I just want to like lift up what Keely was saying too about talking with faculty, because in saying that, Keely, I was thinking about Molly Metzger, who does a lot of work around tornado relief and working with students to advocate for more resources and just more systemic help for folks in sustainability work around the tornado relief after that hit St. Louis. But then also, I think just a lot of her work in Dutchtown and taking students out there to do classes. I think there are a lot of other faculty that have other type of work with other nonprofits here in St. Louis. So I think there are ways that you can do that kind of inside the classroom, but then also outside of that, you can still be very participatory too. So to Becca's point, you can kind of find your niche and find people who can kind of clue you in, and then kind of find your own path within that. So then for the current students, I think that kind of goes into the next question, which is, how have you connected your classroom learning to your practicum and real world work so far? So could you maybe tell us a little bit more about your practicum experiences and maybe give us an example of how something you've learned in your classes so far has, directly aligned to what you're doing with your practicum? And maybe Jonathan, do you want to start?
Yeah, so again, as I mentioned before, I'm doing my practicum at the VA. And one of the things that I have learned is kind of the classroom does give you sort of that framework, and then applying that framework theory or theoretical concepts into the practice that you're actually doing, such as like trauma-informed care or navigating systemic barriers. Um, Again, it's a completely different thing to like learn it in the classroom, but to apply it to your approach once you're actually practicing in the field is something really incredible to see. And also just tailoring it and improving it to become an effective social worker as well. And I don't think I could have got that with just the classroom alone. That practicum application really solidifies it.
Yeah, my practicum is at Community Builders Network. It's essentially, Community Builders Network is a network that connects a bunch of other neighborhood organizations and community development corporations together. So there's kind of one unifying voice where a lot of community development leaders can connect and understand, learn about resources, hear what's working for some groups, hear what's not working for others. I would say something I really recommend when you're looking for your foundation practicum, find something that you maybe don't have a ton of experience in, or something that you're just generally interested in, but you're not sure if you want to commit to that for your life. Not that you necessarily have to commit anything for your life. You've got options, but I came in wanting to do more micro practice and working in mental health, and I'm still really interested in that avenue, but I did my practicum in community development specifically because I had not had that professional experience before, and I really wanted that to inform my future profession. And so what's been really helpful is I have a lot of micro or mental health oriented classes right now. And there is a lot of overlap with mental health and community organizing and community development. And you learn a lot of skills just in general of like how to communicate with other people, how to support other people, and how to work together for a common good or a common goal. And so I would definitely recommend finding something that's maybe a little bit different than what you thought you were going to do, or a little bit different than what you maybe want to do, just to get a little bit more of an in-depth breadth of experience.
So my practicum is at the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office with Victim Services. So I'm doing a lot like outreach and stuff with victims, and getting them connected with other resources. And so in one of our classes, we actually have to practice. You have to sit down and kind of have like fake like therapy sessions with somebody else in the class where you kind of like role play being a therapist. And when I was first doing it, I was like, this is kind of silly and trying not to laugh while I was doing it. And now that I am like actually talking to victims and stuff like that, I've realized how important that is. And that's like something that I probably wouldn't have gotten if I was only having the classroom experience. I wouldn't have like realized how like a lot of these things like connect to each other to actually be applicable in the real world. Because I think it's really easy to kind of forget what's happening in the classroom and kind of just be like, oh, this is like just like a learning experience. And it's going to be different in the real world. But I think a lot of the learning that we do is really focused on the real world, and having that practicum really helps you like realize how well they work together.
Thank you so much. I think what you hit on too is just that a lot of our faculty are folks who not only are leading academic scholars in their field, but people who are actively doing work in the field. And so they're actively seeing what they research and how it works. And not only is trauma informed, but also culturally relevant and responsive and equity focused and driven. And so I just appreciate getting to hear from your perspectives with your practicums, how you're able to kind of pull that together, especially Mo, since ITA in your class, and just getting to see you in practice too, and just kind of knowing that that's your background and what we do with community building too, how it all comes together. So thank you for sharing that. And I will go ahead and pass it back over to Shayna to ask our last two questions.
Yeah, thanks, Clarissa. Okay, current students, more of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Concrete question for you. Can you tell us a little bit about what a typical week looks like for you? And then how do you balance all of your commitments? Because we know you're very busy, especially once you're in practicum, you're balancing a lot of things. Tell us just a little bit about what the week looks like for you and how you balance everything. And anyone can start.
Yeah, so a week is definitely busy. So usually I go to class, and then like an average day is like I have class, and then I go to my practicum for the second half of the day, and then I also have a part-time job that I work. I am with that though, I do that about Monday through Thursday. So then I have Friday, Saturday, Sunday that I can kind of dedicate to doing my homework and stuff like that. Which is nice that I'm able to have certain days to dedicate solely to doing my homework and like readings and just getting caught up on classwork and anything else.
Yeah, typically, in all honesty, sometimes like weeks can get really busy. Whether like it be balancing classes, practicum hours, assignments, and just trying to have like some sort of outside life outside of it. A typical week for me looks like going to practicum, 3 days a week, and then having class, uh, 1 day a week. Sometimes I'll have my weekend intensive courses, which typically, again, that just varies on the course itself, and also working my on-campus part-time job. But one thing, especially to kind of manage it all, I know this sounds pretty generic, but time management. Um, so seriously, like being disciplined about prioritizing deadlines, finishing the things that actually matter, and just staying organized enough so you're not constantly kind of playing catch up with assignments, and just reaching out again if you do need that extra support or extra deadlines from professors or anyone who needs to be informed as well. But yeah, so it does get busy, but as long as you kind of navigate your schedule to whatever works best for you, it's doable.
Yeah, I think right now it's like finals time. So my schedule, like right this week, is a lot different than maybe a general week, but I would say I am doing about 16 hours a week at practicum. So I'm here all day on Wednesdays, and then I do half days on Thursdays and Fridays, and then I have class 3 days a week. So I definitely have a lot of school and practicum going on during the days. I definitely do want to make sure that I have a life outside of school. I need that for self-care and to still be able to function at school. So I'll make sure that like a Thursday night or a Friday night I have time to go out with friends or see people or just go for a walk. I live by Tower Grove Park, which is really nice. I also have part-time job at the gym, which is really nice. So I would never just go to the gym. So having a job means that I'm also there to kind of be able to get a little bit of money and also be able to work out and work on my mental health as well. So I think it's really important to find your groove. It'll take some time and adjustment and figuring out what works best for you and how you manage deadlines. But kind of what Jonathan was saying is like if you do need an extension or you need a little bit more time, most professors are really okay with that. And so you just really need to reach out and ask them. And there's a lot of flexibility.
Thank you all. And I'm realizing that I skipped one question, so I'm just going to pop right back to because I think it is an important one. So we're talking, the students just talked about balancing everything and things that are going on at the Brown School, outside of the Brown School. Jumping back really quickly to Keely and Deshawn, we spoke a little bit about how students are engaged in St. Louis through practicum, but I'm wondering if you two can share a little bit about how Brown School students engage with St. Louis in the community outside of practicum. And so whether that's like something to enhance their personal lives, something to help them professionally, or just like bring some of that balance into their life. Any ways that you all have seen?
The ways I have seen, so WashU is right close to Forest Park. If you don't know what Forest Park is, I always tell people just to Google search and see how big Forest Park is. But I have seen some of our students like volunteer with the History Museum or St. Louis Zoo, those areas of like giving back to the community more. Like doing community service or volunteer some of the races that they may have, which is some people may not find it community service, but just give you a different as perspective of what community service can look like with helping them out with events because they always need volunteers for that too. Also dealing with sometimes they have like different art festivals where students can come in there and help volunteer during those times as well. And then we also have the hospital that is downtown the city area in St. Louis where we always have students sometimes go out there and like write little letters to students or to our veterans that's there as well. But those are different ways I have seen people engage outside of the practicum in like a fun, different way as well. And then we have some cultural events that may reach out from time to time, reach out to me and say, hey, can you share this for like Hispanic Latinx Week? We have different people asking for volunteers for the celebration, like they block off different roads and things for students to get involved in too.
You got a lot of them, but I will echo what Becca said. Shout out to Tower Grove Park. There is always something going on there. Little League dancing classes I've seen from time to time. So that's a good way to kind of connect with your community and meet people. I am a big fan of the Tower Grove Farmers Market. I take myself and my little dog and I push around in a stroller and I just get to kind of see all the people there, try the different foods. A lot of times nonprofit organizations will have like a little booth set up there as well. So you can kind of learn more about like what are some like community engagement activities going on kind of in and around St. Louis. So that's a really good place to go. And it's just like super fun. So
Great tips, great thoughts and ideas. You both mentioned parks. So for those of you who are moving to St. Louis and maybe not super familiar with the city or Missouri, lots of green space here, lots of parks. I think a lot of us, the Tower Grove or Forest Park or, one of the many parks are like one of our favorite places here. And there's also plenty of places outside of St. Louis if you want to kind of like get outside of the city a little bit and get into nature even more. There are a lot of places like that around here. So, okay. So our final question before we go to Q&A that have been submitted, and we would love for everyone to answer this question because I think it's an important one. What is something that students sometimes worry about coming in to the Brown School, and what usually ends up being different than what they expect? So anyone can start, and then we'll just pop around.
I think a big one, and the students kind of already spoke on this, but it's like the concern of balancing coursework with your practicum. As the students kind of explained, once you find your routine and kind of find your rhythm, it really just all falls into place. So, when students come to me for like their first couple of advising sessions in the fall, they're like, how am I going to balance all this? Look at all these classes that I have to take. But by the time we start spring semester, they're like, oh, Keely, this was a piece of cake. Why was I worried about anything? Like, I've really tried to found my rhythm and found my groove, and this really worked out. Whether that's like balancing your class schedule, kind of some of the students mentioned, maybe they just have classes, on Wednesdays and maybe like a half day here and there to kind of, pepper in those practicum hours. And then two, I think another student mentioned time management. The Learning Center, as I had mentioned, has a lot of great time management tools that you can kind of tap into to really build out a schedule for yourself if that's something that's helpful. But every student that I've seen come through, they are perfectly equipped and ready to go for practicum when spring comes around.
One thing I tell students is you may not be able to do every little thing that you want to do during your time here because it go by very fast. Them 2 years, sometimes 3 years, it go by very fast. So make sure you prioritize the things that you want to accomplish, the goals that you want to take, the classes you want to take ahead of time, and realize you may not get to every little thing, and it's fine as well. I think something else that students I like to add is sometimes they get here because it's Washington University, a private institution, very prestigious at times. Some students like, do I actually belong here? And I always tell people, you do belong here, and you may feel some imposter syndrome. And then sometimes I feel imposter syndrome from time to time, but realizing that you was picked to be here for a reason, and don't let anyone, any faculty, staff, or students doubt your capabilities. Okay, you may feel like, oh, I can't do this, but don't let anybody doubt you that you can do it, because you can do it and you will graduate. And do not be afraid to ask for help. I think some people suffer in silence, and that's never a good thing. So always ask those questions, always reach out to people if you need assistance for that too.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, where you mentioned like how prestigious everyone like knows the university is. A lot of people do kind of come in expecting like that theoretical and academic heaviness and intensity. Um, what actually surprises me, or like what surprised me, is how quickly you're like in these actual settings, in these practicum settings, like real world application. And again, the classroom does start to feel like much easier and more relevant, especially when you're processing something that just happened at practicum this week. Um, and also cohort experiences. So you do, or a lot of people sometimes do think that like grad school, everyone's keeping to themselves, focused on their own work, but actually it's a lot more collaborative. You guys are pushing through the same coursework, deadlines, and again, it's just more of a collaborative space rather than
I think something else that can be a concern for some is that, your foundation practicum or concentration practicum are kind of this end all be all. What you end up doing is what you're going to be doing forever, and that kind of locks you into a path. I think it's really important to remember that the decisions you make aren't locking you into one way that you have to be forever. And at the very least, at any place that you go or any organization that you work with, volunteer at, do your practicum at, you're meeting more people, you're building more networks and more connections, and that can be really beneficial. And you can talk to somebody at your practicum site about something that you're interested in, and more often than not, they'll connect you to somebody that they know that is in that field, even if it's a completely different field. And so I would just say that be open to exploring, and even if you if you explore something that's just a little bit different than what you thought you were going to, that doesn't mean that you'll never go back, or you might like that path and decide to keep going down that path or go somewhere totally different. So just be open to how things can transpire and all the different options that there are.
I'm gonna kind of echo what Becca is saying. I kind of came in knowing that I wanted to do social work, but not knowing exactly where I wanted to end up in social work. And I was really scared that I was gonna kind of lock myself into something, just depending on what concentration I choose, what practicum I chose, like the classes I chose to take. But that is just like so not true. Every professor that I've talked to, has completely has changed like what they've done out in the field, and you're never really like locked into one specific like type of social work, like ever. You can really change at any point in time, whether it's like right now while you're in school or 20 years into your career.
Fantastic. Great advice. Thank you all. I heard like a lot of common themes. And then I think it's so cool to like, especially from the students, think about how you all were in the prospective student shoes like a year ago. And now, you're all speaking with just such confidence and just such like encouragement for people who, are in their shoes right now of like, you got this, like, just approach this with such an open mind, and everyone will be fine. So, thank you all. Clarissa, I'll pass back to you, and then maybe we can go to some of the questions that we've marked to answer live.
Sure thing. I will go through some of the questions for you all. So for the students who relocated to St. Louis, and I think this can be answered by Jonathan and Mo coming back to St. Louis too. How supported did you feel during your transition to the city, and did the Brownsville offer any resources or assistance to help you settle in? And I guess also just even outside the Brownsville, were there any other resources or things that helped you just settle in more easily to St. Louis? Maybe Becca, do you want to start this one since you were out of state?
Yeah, I know that, I mean, Clarissa and I talked quite a bit before I ended up coming through email, just to kind of figure out what it was going to look like when I was going to be moving here, and how that was going to look, and just general support. I would say WashU also does have a lot of resources for people that are moving into the area. There are portals for finding roommates. And once you're here, there's a lot of, at least for getting settled into the community, I feel like there's a lot of events at the start of the year to kind of help you get situated. And so that was really beneficial for me. But yeah, I feel it was definitely a change moving here. But I think I liked St. Louis a lot more than I thought I was going to. Coming from DC, I really liked the city life, and I liked being on the East Coast. And so coming to the Midwest was definitely an adjustment. But with all of the green space in the parks, it just ended up being really nice. So I definitely felt supported, and you have people that you can reach out to, and it's really encouraged to reach out. It's not weird to message somebody, or professor or an advisor, just to be like, I don't really know what's going on. I don't know how to just like be a normal person here. Do you have any advice? So there's definitely people that you can connect with.
Yeah, for sure. And also just as mentioned, don't be afraid to reach out, seriously, because this is something new for everyone. Everyone might be, or like whoever's relocating to St. Louis as well, might be feeling a little lost. And you can, who knows, make a good friend out of that. But also just getting to know more people, and just having more support that you're building here in St. Louis as well. So yeah, it's definitely not weird to email, or just say hi to someone as well.
Yeah, I definitely think just like reaching out, especially to people in your classes, and just being like, hey, like, because, I already kind of had a bit of a support system from my family and stuff. So just like finding like a friends and like a school support system, just being able to like reach out to people in class. Everyone was like very open, especially at the beginning, um, to making friends. So just like reaching out to people and being like, hey, do you want to go sit and we can study together, or like work on our essay or work on this presentation and stuff like that. And yeah.
Thank you. And also, as someone who moved here from Texas too, I do think St. Louis is a really friendly city. It's really easy to just kind of like jump in and just be like, hello, I'm new. And people just kind of like invite you in. You're like, cool. Like, I don't know who you are. You don't know who I am, but like, we're friends now, best friends. And so I think, I know it sounds funny, but like, I think even if you are more introverted, like myself or Keely, you can still find your group of people. So whether it is at the Brown School or the greater community, don't be afraid to like jump in, both feet into the water. Just another question too that someone had is for the students who chose to study at the Brown School, which is all of you, just can you talk about how your experience so far has affirmed your decision to study here, especially Becca, just what you said too about, not knowing you would love St. Louis as much as you did. I guess like what has helped you affirm like this was the right path for you?
Personally, for me, when I was deciding whether or not I was going to go to grad school and make an investment into higher education, I knew that one of the things that I would need to do is go to as many events as I could and build like a real and meaningful network and connections with people. And so, um, like kind of what I mentioned earlier about being open to changing your path, like within the first semester, I had mentioned an interest in medical social work, and one of the professors connected me with a medical social worker, and I pretty immediately like I shadowed that person. I really, really liked it, and that's what my concentration practicum is going to be. And so, um, yeah, I think just like what really affirmed my decision is I made like a very tangible, meaningful connection that kind of helped decide what I want to explore further and maybe is an avenue into what I want to do later on down the road that's different than what I thought I was going to do coming in. And part of that is also coming to school. I really wanted to see what was out there because social work is so vast and covers so many different, I don't know, there's so many different layers to social work that I did not know before. So I also was able to see how many different pathways I could take and kind of explore what I was interested or uninterested in. So I would say that's my answer to that.
Yeah, one of the things that I would mention is really just building on the community aspect of the Brown School, especially just always seeing students here, seeing classmates, and it's always a good conversation whenever you're just catching up with someone, eating lunch with someone, just feeling like welcome at home, um, and yeah, just feeling like it's your place at the Brown School. So I would definitely say that, and also just the course offerings too. So many different course offerings, and you can also take courses at different specific, like Olin School of Business, the law school as well. So just that interdisciplinary collaboration as well.
I think what kind of brought me to the Brown School was how student-centered everything seemed. Um, and that has just like stayed true throughout my entire experience. Every like staff and faculty has been so open to helping support me as a student and like through my time at the Brown School. And yeah, I just think that especially like when I was first starting, especially there was so much support that I had to kind of help with the transition into grad school and just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do here as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. I know we only have 5 minutes left. Um, I think, do we have time for one more question, Sheena, or should we transition to that? Okay, we do have one more. Our last question is for the panelists, and I'll also include Keely and Deshawn too, just from a staff perspective of how you have assisted students through things too. But just for the students, like which are there any aspects to being a student that you might find challenging? And like, what have you done to kind of help manage it, or how have staff and faculty helped you manage? I think we talked a lot about balance, work-life balance. I think that is number one, but are there any other challenges that you've experienced that prospective students should know coming in, or just know like, hey, we have the support around you, that when you experience these challenges, you'll know you'll have support when it comes out?
I guess I can answer that. At least personally for me, having been away from school for a couple of years and coming back, I would say the transition back into school was definitely hard. I don't say the transition was harder than the actual material, if that makes any sense. And I think in that case, what was just important was one, being patient and being okay with it being hard, and reaching out to professors as needed, asking for additional support, asking for deadlines, or sorry, extensions if that was needed. And yeah, and so just kind of that transition, I think definitely took a little bit of an adjustment for me. But by the spring semester, I definitely feel more accustomed and more settled in being a student. And so it does not take super long to adjust, and it might take longer or shorter for some, but just being mindful that there will be a transition period, especially if you're moving from outside. So moving from DC to here, I'm in a new city, I'm around a bunch of new people, I'm in a new setting, and I'm doing it's not work anymore, it's school. And I would say that those are definitely very different. So just being okay with those changes and being open to talking to others as needed.
I would also say the transition, even coming from someone who came straight from undergrad, like kind of like the level of academic rigor was very different than what I experienced in undergrad. So it definitely took like a bit of an adjustment. Like in undergrad, I would say, um, my classes were like a lot of the extracurriculars and stuff that I was doing outside of school were kind of what were taking precedence in undergrad. And my classes were kind of like a secondary thing. But now it's like my class, but starting in the fall semester, it was definitely like my classes had to be the thing that came first. So it was definitely like a switch, but using things like the writing center, really helped, and just being able to meet with professors and stuff to kind of work through parts that I was stuck on like assignments.
Yeah, and for me, I would say, I mean, this is one of the things that I put on myself, but kind of like the pressure of meeting expectations in any thing that you're involved in, whether it be meeting like adequate professor expectations in the classroom, meeting adequate expectations at practicum, on-campus job, again, anything that you're doing. And I think one of the things that really kind of helped me is just take it one step at a time. Just focus on the next day, focus on the next immediate thing. And just no matter what you do, just do your best. Obviously, not every day is going to be the prettiest day. And then some other days will be like the best days you'll ever have too. So again, just take it one step at a time. And take a deep breath and just relax. It'll be okay.
Thank you, John. That's just a great note to end on too. Like, I think that's the best thing is like take this one step at a time. And that's part of where Keely and Deshawn, I think, truly shine as being academic advisors, but also student engagement support systems for our students, is that we're here to take that with you. And that WashU is so resource rich that if we can't help you, we know who can. And so please do not hesitate to reach out to us in any capacity to see what we can do to help you get the support that you need to be a successful social work and social policy practitioner that the world needs. So thank you, students, for joining us today, and for Keely and Deshawn for also being here today as well. I'm going to share my screen super quick as we close out. Maybe if I can find the button. Okay. And I can just share really quickly with everyone. Mark your calendars. These are some final deadlines for everyone to have on their calendars. May 1st is the intent to enroll calendar. So if you have been admitted to the Brown School, that is your time to let us know if you will be joining us in the fall. If you do have any questions around that intent to enroll, please just email your specialist or email brownadmissions@wustl.edu, and we'll be happy to talk with you individually about your decisions. June 1st is our deadline for domestic applications. So if you do want to be considered for the fall 2026 cohort, please submit your application by June 1st. And then for our incoming students who definitely know they'll be here this fall, just know that August 3rd for our advanced standing students, that's our Bridge to Brown course. So you'll need to take that in order to get ready for your advanced standing courses, whether you're 12 months or 16 months. August 18th is our international student orientation for our international folks coming in. You'll just need to make sure you're here in St. Louis by that date so you can join us for your orientation. And then we'll also have a August 19th through 20th full-time student orientation for our full-time MSW students as well. So let us know if you need anything else. Right there, we also have an incoming student task QR code. So if you are incoming, you want to stay on the know of things that are coming up, including proficiency exams, course advising, etc. We have other dates too that you can look at. So please stay up to date with those. You'll be meeting with Keely and Deshawn and more super soon to get ready for course registration. So be on the lookout on your email. And I think that's really it. Just thank you all so much for joining us today. And we just look forward to welcoming you in the fall. And thank you again to all of our panelists for joining us too. You guys are amazing. And I'm just so glad to get to know each and every one of you from being prospective students to being here now.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. We'll see you in the fall.